Good afternoon. It's Sunday. The weekend rapidly draws to a close. Hello, Amy. What do you want? Hello, little miss. Ooh, you're toasty. Have you been in the sun? Have you been lying in the warmth? I think you have. Are you a good girl? Yes, you are. You're a good girl. Oh. Anyway, Amy's being a good girl, which makes a change. It does. Because normally she headbutts me and, does her face hugger. But she's learning that if she lies down next to me, she gets lots of huggies. And it's taken you only 5 years. Yes. She's not the fastest learner. Anyway, so when we left off last night, which feels like only 10 minutes ago, to be honest, we had tied off 5 bobbins at the bottom, because, well, less bobbins on the cushion, which is always a good thing, is it not, little one? Yes. And so today we are not likely to be tying off more bobbins. I mean, there's a really remote chance, but not much of one is the short answer. So we need to get on and don't need to be yawning because we're not yawning yet anyway. Give it a few minutes. So let's have a look. We have tangle bobbins there. You can go over there for a minute because we don't need you yet. We don't not immediately need you either. We need you. And we have lift off. So been thinking this morning about how to do the strip tests and measuring a few things and giving it a bit more thought and then changing my mind, and so I haven't actually achieved anything, but I have thought about it. I should get points for thinking about it. So once again, my hands have gone cold. So, let me click on some things. I was looking at things to click on, and I wonder why summer. No. Should really be out in the garden if the sun's out. Because my garden doesn't get a lot of sun. Because there is a colossal tree at the end of it. And in the morning, the sun rises to, if you look out my front door, for example, the sun rises to the left. Therefore, it sets to the right. Unfortunately, all the way down my garden border to the right is Mrs. Owns the Lake property. And her garden is quite free-willed. Now, I have no problem with that specifically. I really, really don't. But, because, it makes me feel better if mine's not exactly the most, Hampton Court show level garden. But, all the way down her side of my property are really tall things. So, there's a big bush thing out the front, well, a number of the big bush things out the front, which then mean that out the front of my house in the afternoon, there is no sunlight in my front garden, and there is this colossal tree which is about twice the height of my house, and almost fills the width of my back garden, because my garden's wide and shallow. So as a result, my back garden does not get sun, because when I say it rises to the right, well, it's a little bit more, if you were looking at a clock face, so out the front, instead of rising at, say, 9 o'clock, it rises at, say, 10, which means that my house is blocking the sunshine from the garden in the morning. As it raises, it goes round the front of the house, gets to peak, which there is a small amount of sunshine, obviously at midday, because, well, it's near enough overhead, so of course there is some sun, but very quickly it starts ebbing off again, because it goes behind the wretched tree. So, my back garden is very, very sparse of sunshine, and so for me to be able to go and sit in the sunshine, and it is a vaguely warm day as far as I can tell. Alexa, what's the weather like?
Right now it's 15 degrees Celsius.
That's only 15 degrees. Oh, okay, it's not as warm as it sounds.
We expect more of the same, with a high of 16 degrees and a low of 0 degrees.
So yes. And the Alexa device in here is having a party. These Alexa devices are really weird. They seem to spend... I don't know whether it's because I'm female or just because I just find the normal Alexa voice quite irritating. So I tend to tame mine to British male. Because it's a slightly lower pitch and slightly less grating. And pretty much regular as clockwork, it resets back to female. So I've even got a thing, a scheduled job for it, to set it. And she's now off on one on how I don't know how to help you with that. And she is a she, so clearly she has changed. But it is so frustrating because she'll do this and she'll suddenly be all kinds of, I can't do that, I can't do this, I can't do the other. And you're like, well, that's on you, love, because you were working earlier, you know? And as I say, it just seems to be this constant battle of, you say to it, do this on, because I've got a Ring device, so, disarm my Ring device, right? And it's got a very specific name because I've actually got access to somebody else's Ring device in case of emergency. So obviously mine is labelled one thing, theirs is another. So basically it's, disable my Ring device. There's no such device as your ring. Well, there is, because if I repeat myself about 5 times, eventually it will go, oh yeah, what's your code for that? And it wouldn't be so bad if it said, if let's say it's called my ring, right? It wouldn't be so bad if it went, there is no such device called ring, as in it's missing the my out of it. No, it repeats the full name, which is the exact name of the device. And you're kind of like... And it's not like I've got a severe speech impediment or something, and it can't pick it up. Now, I do mean first thing in the morning when I'm not quite awake, I give it a lot more leeway because, well, maybe, what I thought I said and what I said was not entirely the same thing. But during the day when I'm wide awake and I know what I said, it's very hard not to get annoyed with her. What you doing, puppy? Have you been a good girl? What's your brother's up to? Because it worries me when he's quiet and not here. So you're just sunbathing outside? There he is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oops, throwing my shears scissors on the floor. Hang on a moment. make it to the end. Slightly annoying. I really thought I'd overdone those. Hey Nick Kisser, how you doing? You bastard. Yeah, I apologise. Now, where in the name of mercy did I put that? For I need more stuff. Now, it should be on my twiddly thing. Oh, okay, that really is quite close then. Yeah. Where is my twiddly thing? Where is the twiddly thing? Is it behind me? I can't see it. Now, this is unlike me not to know exactly where it is. Bear with me one moment. It's not there. Which means it must be over here, but I didn't see it. Now, when I say my twiddly thing, it's not exactly small. So, you'd think I'd be able to find it. But it's not there. It's hidden. And of course it's got my reel of cotton on it. Where the hell's that gone? You've been eating it, kid. Why is this kind of growing a bit to a halt? I'm expecting it to run out. Not just yet. Oh, there it is. Blind, stupid woman. It's sitting on top of something, waving at me like a frantic thing. When I refer to my twiddly thing, not that it is easy to demonstrate, but I have a spoolie holder thing for my threads. And it allows me to fill up my bobbins with ease with my bobbin winder. For my bobbin winder, he'd be great. So, we need to wind a load of stuff onto the bobbin. So let's put you in there, like that. I'll hang on to you. Wobble. That's quite a bit. Let's put you over here. Right, expect to find you. Awesome. I must admit, sometimes the postal service and delivery companies amaze me at how quickly they do things. But other times, I know how days work, don't worry, they all look remarkably similar, so, but as I said, sometimes the delivery companies can really do a really cracking response and are very quickly fair enough then. That's fair enough. Well then, yeah, if you slightly more expected then. But no, sometimes it's amazing how companies can... Oh, for fuck's sake. This is why I don't trust knots. Even the simplest frigging, stuff sometimes doesn't do what it was supposed to do. I mean, I know how to make a slip knot. I've been making them for years for, countless other things. The moment I slip it on a pin in terms of lace making, or there's lace involved with it, knots just don't do what they used to do. They don't hold, they slip, they come undone in ways that you never imagined they would. And that's still the wrong way around. And because thread is so thin, it feels like you need a really long bit to do even the simplest thing. I swear I did that the right way. Oh, fucking bollocks. And then, of course, it does this and comes all unwindy and goes all tangly. Because it can, from the bit that you had secured further down your bobbin. So now, of course, I want to undo and rewind the end of the bobbin, and I haven't even managed to attach it to my work yet because it's come undone. Patience is never a virtue when it comes to these things, because they just do it to annoy you. Right, that's you. So. Yeah. As you say, working in something like that and spotting someone you know is really quite a off chance. For Christ's sake, how can I do it 2 different ways and end up with exactly the same answer? Fuck's sake. I haven't got the patience for this shit. I really haven't. I'm trying to do a slip knot, and normally if you do a left one or a right one using the same threads in the same hands, you get one slips on one side, one slips on the other. Not for me. And this is where knots just don't work for me. Is that things that should happen don't. It just doesn't. And Rory, will you sit down? You get... Netkisser, I appreciate the fact that you came. You know that. While I lose my shit with... See, whatever I'm doing, I end up with the same bloody result, which is that it's not sliding on the one bit I want it to slide on. I've tried this like 12 times now. How can this be so flipping hard? Let's do it a completely different way and try and make this work. I never do slip knots this way because, well, it's ball ache. There. That will work. There we go. Keep you out the way. Now I need to make you a lot shorter. And my co-worker needs to stop pinging in my phone. Right. So we need to put the pin in. Now I'm not convinced that I've added the ones I need to add. So you're out. 1, 2, 3. I didn't. One, two, three, four. Five. Right. Gets messy with ends floating around. It's hard to tell what's going where, doing what, and tension them all. So why? What are you? You are this end here. So you go there. Right. Ah, goodness me. Complications. Lace making is one of those things where you want a table that's like 12 foot wide so that you can spread your bobbins about, but that you need to be able to zoom in at your head to about here at this level so you can see what's going on, and both can't be true. Part of me feels like the whole kind of end issue would be a lot more easily negated if I just did a knot and just knotted the two together, but that is not the way of lace making. Lace making is decidedly less about knots. Spambot. I love spambots. Borrow a few extra pins, I think. Looks like I might have screwed up somewhere. 1, 2, 3, 4, but that gives you the wrong number. 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. What the fuck? How is you? That's because you are incorrect. Let's undo this then. Sugar Bear, how you doing? Now, I fucked up somewhere, because you should be around that pin. Well, arse. And I am not going back and doing that. So we, my friends, are going to cheat. And we, shamefully, are going to cheat. Because this is the first official cheat, I think, in, well, 6 squares. I mean, in theory, all I have to do is undo that entire cloth stitch. But this should be in and around that pin. But it's not. No, it's just, I'm really crap at spotting my mistakes. Sugar Bear, I need you to make a decision for me. Do I undo the cloth stitch bit, which has a raw end in it and will be very, very complicated? Or do I do a pretty reasonably invisible fix here with my magic tool? Because the fix is short. Yeah, me too. Good call. See, this is why I like you. You're sensible. You don't make me do all the hard shit for no good reason. It is just for me, after all. And life is incredibly short. And exactly, it's the, if you're doing it for the Queen or country kind of thing, that's one thing. When you're the only bugger who's going to see the end result, you just screw it. Now, obviously, I need to make sure I don't make it too shitty, but I've mentioned it countless times about accepting that there will be mistakes, right? And there are mistakes, and there are not mistakes kind of thing. And to be honest, that's going to be a fairly invisible mistake. It is going to be really pretty invisible. I mean, if you get that close that you can see it, you deserve it, because you'll have to be kind of nose to nose. Because in essence, this pair go in through that pin, well, the left-hand side of that pin, and out. Well, I've just kind of almost done that, so it's not quite, but it's close enough that with any luck, it will not attract attention. Which is, frankly, all that matters, is it not? So, here's to hoping that's the only one, you know? As I've said, there are times when you look at it and you go, oh, and it's a really long way back, but if it's really, 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 really big, you feel slightly more compelled to fix it. It's just painful. It's just painful for the sake of it, you know? And I would imagine that, you know, in a week's time, we'll have a job to find it. I mean, we know where it is, but, you know, it will not stand up and scream, me, me, me. There are certainly bigger mistakes that we've let slip, so. G'day. Thanks, Sugar Bear. So how are you and hubby? good. This is a good thing. We like it to hear that people are doing good. Fair enough. I stayed up far too late doom scrolling last night. Doesn't really matter which way we go, does it? But as you were already out, we will go this way. So you can stay over there for a minute. See, this is where the end comes in, because as you can see, there is this floating end of doom who needs to sod off into the pins. Let me get... Well, it depends what I'm doing. If it's my choice, then it's usually not so bad. If it is not my choice, it is more compelled. So, I know, ring ring, server's died, you need to fix it. It'll hit me like a truck. But in essence, I'm not so bad when it's my choice, because my brain's obviously in the mood for kind of doing something. And whatever the something is, as long as I do that something, it generally doesn't hit me so bad. If I then kind of go, hey, I'm really in the mood for, I don't know, lace making, and then try and write a program, that doesn't work. That just doesn't work. You have to do the thing for which your brain was up for. If your brain's not up for it, you're wasting your time. So yeah, but definitely age is, I mean, as a 20-year-old, I could have stayed up for 4 days straight and not even really felt it. At 52, I can stay up for a number of days. And, for example, when Monsters and Memories did a stress test that ran for the weekend, I was up, you know, I obviously had gone to work Friday for 7 o'clock in the morning. I'd done my job. I then did, I think I did a stream in the afternoon, which I find streaming quite tiring, to be fair. And then we'd done a stress test in the evening, and I'd stayed up all night, all of Saturday, so that was Friday night, all of Saturday night, Sunday, and I had gone to bed at like 10 o'clock on a Sunday, knowing that I had to get some sleep in before, you know, going to work on Monday. But to be honest, I mean, don't get me wrong, there were tired patches where I probably nodded off slightly, kind of at my desk. But realistically, I can do that because I was really excited and really wanted to do it. But in terms of general normal life, I can't just stay up and make time with it, you know? I will also point that 2 to 3 in the morning is the one time my brain is domesticated and actually fancies doing things like tidying up and decorating. But again, this is really not ideal. I mean, I live alone, so, you know, and in a detached house, so it's not quite so bad. I'm not exactly disturbing the neighbours and all the rest of it. However, you know, it's still not the best plan of the world. Why can't you, you know, brain, why can't you be into that at 2 to 3 in the afternoon when it's a sensible time to be doing it? Because when you're clambering over your kitchen counters and painting the ceiling of the kitchen and all the rest of it like a monkey, 2 o'clock in the morning is really not the best time to be, you know, leaning out into the middle of the kitchen, you know, balancing on the edges of things in case you fall, you know. Because, you know, no offence to my good self, but I'm not going to bounce very well at this age. I don't bounce, I'm more of thwop. And that's it. There is no... No, it's not, but it's the only time my brain's in the mood. So, yeah, if you want it done... At some point, I will have to do some decorating in this house. I've been here, 6 years. And, yeah, I do. Yeah, it's definitely the kind of sack of spuds, thwop, and that's it. I lie motionless, gently going out at the bottom. There is no kind of bounce, ow, that hurt a little, and get up quickly. No. It's more lie there going, am I dead yet? did this one kill me, you know? This is part of the reason I don't try and do adult gymnastics anymore. I did 20 years ago. It was great fun. I loved every inch of it. But I am now too old to be landing on my back on the floor and getting up going, yay, let's do it again. No. If I land on the floor, I'm kind of gonna feel it for a couple of weeks, probably a month, maybe more than a month, depending. You know, let's not pretend that it's gonna go well for me, you know. So yeah, it's the only problem with getting old. Well, it's not the only problem, but it's one of the major problems of getting old. Is that your brain's going, yeah, and your body's going, no! Don't do it. Because in your head, you can do that. In your head, you can, you know, get up at, 3 o'clock in the morning and you know, go on a 20-mile hike. What, of course, you've forgotten is that, you know, you're old now, and you get up at 3 o'clock in the morning. It takes you till 9 o'clock in the morning to even be human, and you've walked a quarter of a mile now, and your feet hurt, your back hurt, and you want to be back in bed. Yeah, let's not pretend that's not a thing. One, 2, 3, 4. Five. Yeah. And it's just that kind of, hey, let's not. You know, oh, why don't we go climb? Let's not. It does spoil some things, of course. You know, when the sensible part of your brain looks at, you know, kind of like your body. No worries. Enjoy, doggy dog. Yay! It's been a vaguely sunny day. It's not been particularly warm, but the pups have done the outside thing, and sat in the sunny spots and had a whale of a time, running around like nutters and, generally being dogs. While I have stayed indoors a lot when they were in the garden and let them do their thing. And we're now regretting the fact that I did not go out in the sunny day, but that's very traditional for us Brits. Oh look, the sun has come out. We must do something. Yes, let's do that later. Later comes. Oh, the sun has gone away now. This is how it works. Well, my dogs don't do weather either, so I understand. This is the only weather they will do, which of course is the beautiful sunshine. Anything else? Wind, rain, snow. It's just too much. You can't expect them to go out when there's drizzle or, anything other than perfect weather. So I totally understand. Yeah, it's been pleasant to look at through the window. It's not been particularly warm, so it is best viewed from afar, I think. I think you probably could. I think you'd surprise yourself. I really do. I really think you probably could. Because you kind of follow what's on the piece of paper, really. So if I... Well, and that's the thing is, as we all know, over the years of learning, because you use old fart too, lots of things look really, really hard. And sure, the first couple of times you have a go, it's really hard, it's overwhelming, because there's so much new aspect to it. Now, it's not actually hard, and it's not actually complicated. It just seems it because it's something you've not done, and it's something you've not done anything like it. If it has similarities to other things, so for example, as a computer programmer, learning a new computer language really isn't that hard for me, because, well, I've done 25, a 26th will be really quite easy, almost irrelevant of how weird it might seem. And, because, logic's kind of logic. And lace making is very different to a number of other hobbies, but at the same time, it is not hard. If you take it slowly, you do an individual thing. Most people start with making a thin strip of various stitches. So whole stitch, half stitch, and whole stitch, cloth stitch, half stitch. And then once you've kind of got the hang of doing the repetitiveness, so bear in mind, half stitch is cross twist, cloth stitch is cross twist cross, and whole stitch is cross twist cross twist. So they build up, right? It's Nautica. Hello. I know. It is. What do you mean it's a glorious day over there? It's never a glorious day in Wales. But it is. It's a bit cold, but it's certainly sunny. It has potential. The flowers are trying to flower, and the bees have been beeing, and it's beginning to feel a little bit like the world is waking up again. But as for lace making, Sugar Bear, I really think you would surprise yourself. If someone gave you a strip, so, let's say it was this wide, with all of the bobbins set for you, and said, do cloth stitch, which is cross, twist, cross, for each of the pairs working across. I really think you would manage it. Yes, the first few times you'd feel really awkward and it would feel really, really weird. But I do honestly believe you could do it. Because as I said, you can lift a thing, move a thing, and place a thing. That's all you need to be able to do. And, would it be something to be heralding, the saviour of your nation? Probably not. But I reckon you could do it. I think I've always been a fairly good advocate of... I do believe that there are a lot of things that a lot of people could do. Well, and I think to an extent, that's all it takes. But an awful lot of people kind of like, oh no, I couldn't do that. Well, you could. Would it maybe look exactly the same? No. Would you maybe feel as at ease as I do with it? Probably not. But there's no reason, unless you have, physical limitations, there's no reason why you couldn't do something like this. Now, I think you'd be surprised, actually. But one of the things that, most people, if you take crochet and knitting, I won't say there's an element of... Well, there is a skill to it, but it is much more a hobby of coordination. It is much more a hobby of, keeping track of things. With this, you follow the piece of paper. And so, it's not like I'm counting, I've got 5 more of these to do. No, I've got 4 more because there are 4 squares on it, and all I have to do is count the 4 squares below me to know that I need to do 4 squares more. And it's a bit more like paint by numbers in that it's harder. I mean, it's, you can still make mistakes because, hello, I prove that all the time. But because you're following the outline underneath and you poke the pins in the holes that are there, it will always line up. It will always work out. You won't do the 4 of them and discover that you did them a lot tighter than the last 4 and they don't line up along the edge. It doesn't work like that because, the pins keep everything in line. And so it is, you could do this one-handed. I mean, it would take longer, but you could do this very much one-handed because all you've got to do is, tension it would be a bit harder, but, realistically, you can do this one-handed. And it is, so it's not really a skill. It is following and painting with thread the thing underneath it. Now, I'm not going to say there aren't talented lace makers, because there are. But these are the people who can envision something and then mark the pattern out on paper and clearly make exactly what they want. I won't say inventing, but, you know, creating the patterns. Now, yes, I created this pattern, but as I said, it was a variation on someone else's pattern. I did not come up with the ground concept. So, you know, it is... But also, when you think about it, because cross and twist is all there is, it's going to be very hard to make up something that has never been done before. There will always be something remarkably like it, something that, you know... So even if you sat there and thought, I'll do this all by your lonesome, right? Someone somewhere will go, oh, that looks like this, and pull out something that looks really similar. Just because there's I'm not going to say there's a finite number of combinations, but to an extent there is. There is only a certain number of things you can do. Now, and it reminds me of, for example, musical notes. We all know there's 8 notes to a scale, and, you know, a bunch of incidentals, and that arguably there are, made me think now. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Yeah. 7 or 8, hang on. A, B, C, D, E. 7 notes to a scale, sorry. And you know, some incidentals. And realistically, you know, when you do that, well, there can only be a finite number of combinations. Now, you've got the different octaves, so, you know, that can mix it up a fair bit. But it's why you can hear a piece of music and it sounds remarkably like something else, because it's got many similarities to it. Now, sometimes it is a blatant rip-off. Other times, it is just coincidental. There's one doing the rounds on the short video thing. And if you're around in the 80s and you remember the Nutter, who basically, he released a single where he kind of goes, da 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 da, la la, but he rolls his tongues and basically, you know, laughs and, well, he looks complete weirdo. There is a classical piece of music that kind of has that exact tune to it. Now, did he steal out of that, or did he just make it up and it happens to sound the same, right? You know, there are times where I've sat down and listened to some modern piece of music, and I almost swear I could tell you what they were listening to when their brain said, I've got an idea. Because it's... Back in the, 1600s, you used to have a tune, right? And the composer would do, variations of. So they would take the same kind of snippet and churn it out in a number of different ways. And it's almost like some of the modern tunes are just variations on insert whatever, right? And that doesn't make it a wrong thing. It really doesn't. Because a good piece of music, you can get away with doing that. But sometimes it just, it sounds like it because it is it. Other times there are, backbeats of not the main tune or whatever. It does feel wrong, because if someone's going to sit there and say, look at this piece of music I wrote, and all you really did was copy and paste a bunch of other people's stuff together and call it your own, is it really yours? Now, so it is a difficult thing, right? But there's plenty of examples of it. And lots of people go, oh no, I didn't know that it was exactly the same, using the same words. And you're kind of going, really? um, I was definitely up too long last night. I'm also hungry. I've just realised I'm hungry. That doesn't help. I was a little bit annoyed at Tesco's this week. Now, the delivery driver did agree with me. Oh, he's been here before. In that it's really annoying. You go on the app and you pick, I don't know, pasta. And every pasta is, oh, we can't do that. It's not out of stock. You can't pick that product right now. Or you book it 2 weeks in advance and come picking day on, we ain't got none of those. Well, you knew I wanted it. Why didn't you get some? But as he agreed. The number of times that it will say, oh, there weren't any, and you can walk straight in the store that it was picked from, and there's a crap ton on the shelves, is absolutely infuriating. And we had a bit of a discussion about how the way their delivery and picker managers are picked. And basically it's whoever doesn't run away fast enough. It's not because they've shown skill or aptitude at being managers. And an awful lot of them basically don't manage. They don't plan, they don't, schedule, they don't do any of that. No. They kind of just take the salary. Quite a few of them apparently quit on the first morning. And you're kind of like, really? Is it that bad? Apparently so. That's right, I was just looking. It looked a little bit wonky, but it's okay. So, it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm hungry. What is that? Okay. Now, of course, well, it's one of those things is the more I do now, the less there is to do later. And quite often this is my spurning ambition. Because obviously, I kind of want to get to the end. Not because I do want it over with, but I want it over with for the right reason, Now, I have contemplated, if I can pull my act together and make some strips, and design my strip, and then start making my strips. If the strips join well, I could stop this at 9 squares, making a half curtain, and go about making a whole curtain with strips that look better as a single, and look like a single unit at the end of it. But if it looks really pants, then obviously the squares reign supreme, right? But as I mentioned on the stream last night, one of the biggest problems is if I make the strip reasonably wide, and it would need to be reasonably long, and obviously what I don't want to do is make a strip, because I've already decided that my strips need to be reasonably wide, so about this wide. So it's as many bobbins as this. So it's not going to be any less work. And if I made a strip like this, well, it's going to take twice as long as a triangle because, it's half a square, right? Now, it might go faster because it's in strip format and you don't have the turning and all the rest of it, and I really do think that will help. But I do find myself sitting there going, okay, so if I do that, but what would I be making out of it, what would be the purpose of the piece of lace that I'm making? Because, well, it's a lot, if we still stick with our triangle takes approximately a week, so each strip, even at the height of this square, is 2 weeks. Well, we know that half a window is 3 squares high. Well, that's 6 weeks a strip then, to make half a window. Now, as I say, might go faster, and in fact, I'm pretty confident it would go faster, because you'd be on a more rolling pattern and not... And while I would still probably make sections like I do now, it would be a much more rolling section. I do find myself kind of going, but, right? And thinking that if I made some strips, I would want to be making something that, if it's going to take at least 2 weeks, probably 6 weeks a strip, surely the join strips then have to be making something useful, or something that I can at least use for something. Hence, thinking really I need a 6-week strip, right? Or a calculation, fart, brain, error. Yeah. So if this strip would be 2 triangles, it would be 6 triangles long, right? In essence, they just alternate, flip-floppy. So if I had to do that, and so it's 6 weeks per strip, I would need to do that to make half a window's worth of strip. Now, of course, if I made a dog's dinner of the join, that trashes 6 weeks worth of work. So I don't really want to do that. So I've obviously got to do a smaller one to start with. But then what do I do with it? What can I use it for? It just bugger, basically. But I find myself thinking it's got to be done. Well, clearly my brain's not doing maths very well today. Usually it's one of its better subjects. But today, obviously staying up till 4 o'clock this morning, really has not done the maths brain cells any good. They're still a bit hungover from their jolly, even though there was no mathing. I usually math okay, because I realise that my math isn't mathing. It's not like I'm all set, yeah, I'm right, and don't realise how wrong I am. I'm going, right, so that's this, that's that makes this, that makes that. And then my brain goes, are you sure about that? And the rest of my brain goes, oh, bollocks, no, it's not. And so I am semi-mathing. I'm just not quite as agile as I once was. It's a bit like we were saying about the falling over, and we don't really bounce anymore. We just kind of go and land rather ungracefully on the floor and stay there for a little while going, oh. So with that in mind, my brain is kind of very similar about the maths. It's not so bad. It will get up eventually and notice, but it will be a little worse for wear on the other side. So, yeah, I mean, that's what God invented spreadsheets and calculators for. I mean, seriously, it is. So what do I do? What do I do to work out if I can do a much better net curtain? Because this is going to look a little bit rum with the joins of the squares. Because obviously you'll have, I won't say a thick line, but it will be a comparatively thick line. Even if I use interesting and decorative thread to make it look a little more attractive, it's still going to show, right? So what do I do? How do I go, do I embrace the fact that I need to do some strips? Now, another way of doing the strips, if I can get my brain over the fact that it will be useless to me afterwards, would be to make a really, really, really long strip and then chop it into sections and join it. Because, well, then it doesn't matter. Because you already know and have accepted you will not be using this for something. And you just, you know, casually have a pillow with strip on it that you do whenever you're in a meeting or bored. Well, no. You can start with a straight line across the top, which is, for example, where you would join a piece of cloth to hang it on a pole, right? You get like a words. How is it? 2 seconds ago I knew the word, now my brain's going no. The bit where you fold, you've kind of got a strip of fabric, you fold it in so the two edges are in the middle, and then you fold it in again, and you kind of sew it across the top of the thing to give it a fancy looking edge and solid, but it's actually like 5 layers of shit. I've got some somewhere. I haven't really got anything I can show you it with either. I know. Yes, I have. So, let's pretend that this is a... Yeah, so you get your strip... Don't pretend it's not double-sided, I just don't have a single one. Oh, yes, I do. Hang on. Yes, I do. Hang on. I've got a single one. Hang on. In here somewhere. One of you. Yeah, you'll here we go. This is a thinner one. So, if I use this, you fold like this into the middle, this into the middle. You would then get the fabric raw edge. Yeah, I just can't think of the word for it, and this is how I spend my entire life. I know exactly the word I mean, and it's in there, and it's laughing at me because it's a word. And so you then put like the raw edge of what you want on it, fold it over like this, and both sides get a really nice edge, and the shitty bit is hidden in a strip of shit. So what you do is you make the top edge and hide it in a strip of shit. Well, it is a hem, but it's got a word where you fold it together and you sew it down. There's a word for it, and it's I bought some. Hang on. See if I can find it on Amazon. Why is it that... I mean, it literally... I don't even know what letter it starts with. I really can't think of a single thing. But I know I bought some. But the problem is if I tell you I buy... Because I know it's got a... Hang on. Let's see if I know that it's got It's... No, that's not how you spell roll, you fucking idiot. See, it was after that. I'm sure it's after that. Yeah. It's just a single fucking word. Google, come here. Google will know. Google will do it. What is the name of the strip that you fold the ends in and then fold over a raw edge of fabric to make a tape that is nice on both sides? Bias. There you go. It's a bias tape. There we go. Well done, Google. Bias tape. That's the shit. But you almost get a big bias tape, put it across the top, sew the lace in to give it a strong thing that you can attach to the bar at the top. Yeah, there's that to it as well. My usual one is more of, I know how it's said, but then I look at the words and go, what do you mean that's how you spell it? Now, I'm going to give you the obvious one to that. I'm going to give you one that caught me out. Oh, it's a few years ago now, but not anything like as long as it should have been, right? I am not an avid reader because, well, clearly words are not my friends, right? I do read, but I often do audiobooks, so I don't see the word written down. Anyway, let's say you have a chicken coop. C-O-U-P, chicken coop, right? And then there's and then of course there is the uprising of minions, right? So, what's the word for it when sailors revolt? Anyway, but if you do it more in a military style, it's a coup. How was I to know it's spelt the same as a fucking chicken coop? Mutiny. That's the word. So but it is also a coup. And I saw that written down and my brain's going, what's chicken coop's got to do with this? Because I saw coop. C-O-U-P. I didn't know that's how you spell coup. Coup. I mean, of all the ways a dyslexic would have spelt coup, doesn't have no P's in it. It's a bit like the word facetious. Facetious. Which idiot starts that shit with an F? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it is a coop. Well, exactly. Coo. But this is the problem a dyslexic has. I mean, there is the traditional, we all know that the English language has some really stupid spellings, right? Yacht. I mean, of all the dragged up weird names that someone came up with, yacht, right? There is just no logic that makes yacht the answer, right? And, but is it, I mean, because I struggle with words and I can look at a word and go, it means nothing. It is a pile of jumble. It's like getting a load of Scrabble letters and just putting your hand in a bag and going, thupf. This does not necessarily mean a word to me. It's just a pile of letters, right? Even if it spells my own name, right? But at the same time, sometimes you look at it and you can kind of stare at it and go, nah. Oh, I know what that says, and it makes some sense. Other times, you try and write it down and your brain goes, and the problem is, like all parents, my mother used to do, if you don't know how to spell it, look it up in a dictionary. Well, to an extent, that is not a wrong point. For if you are unsure of, do I put the letters in this order or that order, you can go to a dictionary and check. But not when it's the first three letters. So, taking the word facetious, which, I get it, but I would be looking under VER for, like version, facetious. I'm going to be looking a hell of a long time for facetious in the V's, aren't I? Right? It's just, and this is what causes me so many problems, is that how words, how you can keep so many thanks, Naughty Cat. I like that, I do. But it is one of those problems that, I feel really sorry for children. I mean, other languages, I would argue, have similar issues. But many of them are much more phonetical. Even Germans, who smash all of their words together and give you the glorious that is Schwarzwälder Kirschtorten, at the same time, it is spelled like you say it. So just because they smash it all together and make horrendously long words, for the most part, it is phonetical. The English language, not so much. Let's take Leicestershire. In the immortal words of the average American seeing the word Leicestershire written down, Leicestershire. No. Leicestershire. Where did all those letters go? We love adding vowels to our words over here, and then we eat them. We have them as spare padding. I swear we do it for better scores at Scrabble. It kind of seems to be the only real word. Now, you could take that view, or you could argue that the Americans... forgot them because they didn't make any sense. Choice is yours. But it also means when you're playing that stupid game that we've got, guess the word thing that we've got for the Be Right Back screen. But when you're playing that, I want to spell it the British way, and of course it's not the words that it's looking for. Well, it's the words that I know. Well, sort of. So, I am going to take your leave. I am going to enjoy a little bit of the remaining afternoon. Well, for example, in British, English that is, centre has RE at the end, not ER. Because we borrowed it off the French and the Latin. Our language is made up of everybody else's smushed together. And then, of course, we've done our own thing to it. So we can't really accuse the Americans of taking a language and doing their own thing to it, because that's exactly what we did. We just did it a lot longer ago. And so, but if you think that at one point, there, thee, thine, thus were a thing, right? You know, thine being the glory and all that. And to be honest, I quite like the thine, thou kind of way of speaking. I actually quite like how it fits. When you learn French, for example, or German, you do I, you, they, you plural, they plural, and you're kind of going, or it's I, it's usually I, he, she, it, depending on the language, but you as an individual or you as a group. Many languages differentiate between between you singular and you plural. English does not. It's just you lot, whatever. Well, thine, thou kind of was a little bit more specific, and I like that the way it sounds. I you know, thy rod or thy staff. You know, your rod, your staff. It is, I don't know, I just kind of like it, and I feel it's slightly a shame that we lost it, but then if you consider how people speak today, even compared to when we were children, language has changed a fair bit, and then you consider that at one point, I pray to God that, not that I'm hugely religious, but I pray to God that this is no longer true. In the days when text speak was a thing, L8R being later, I remember it being publicly stated, and not on April the 1st, that in your English exam, text speak is now to be accepted because it is a recognised language. And then we wonder why the literacy and stuff of people today is lesser. Well, it is, but again, so many things now are considered recognised parts of languages, because they have been used enough that, well, everyone now uses a computer. I mean, children in really low, early on in education are being. I mean, one of the things that made me laugh was that a friend of mine used to work in a school for children with severe behavioural difficulties. Now, some of it was because they were medically lacking, and some were just little shits. So imagine then when the head of the school decides to give every single one of them at the start of the year an iPad to do their work on. And it wasn't the cheap iPad. It's not like it's an Android tablet. No, it was an iPad. They start at many hundreds of pounds. Well, of course, they went home. Mummy and Daddy, who were hooked on whatever, sold them for more stuff to be hooked on. The rest of them, of course, if you give 5-6-year-olds iPads, they break the crap out of them. Cost a fortune. But they were doing it rather than teaching them right on a piece of paper. Much as I honestly believe that because 90% of stuff is computerized, they need to be taught computing as general computing as part of their education. But not instead of learning to read, write and count. Shoving it in, a calculator is... We were always made, because we're old farts here, we were always made, you can't use a calculator until you've learnt how to do long division, long multiplication, and various other things by hand. Then, and only then, can you use a calculator. Because you'll have an idea of what to expect, and if you typed it in the calculator wrong, or the calculator got it wrong somehow, as in it did difference of preferences of order of application of the symbols, then you will notice, and you're sitting there kind of going, so you're telling me that I'm allowed to use by the end of it a magical device that will work it all out for me, but you're going to make me suffer in the meantime? Yes we are. And I think about how people like me would have fared as a child if everything I wrote came up with red squiggly lines of what the fuck every time you typed something wrongly or spelt something differently that made no sense. Now, obviously, if you use the wrong there, well, I'd like to thank Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. What do you think you've got in your pocket? As you say, we're all on the internet now. We're all attached permanently to the greatest knowledge bank of all kind. It is Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy in your pocket. You can look up anything, get the answers. It is Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. That's so dog. In, out, in, out, in. Why do you think my door is permanently on a pull-to string, but has a thing to stop it actually shutting, so that the dog may let themselves in and out? Because if I went to get up and down every time one of the dogs wanted to come in or out, I would have kebabbed them by about 10 o'clock in the morning. Because, between me and my bladder, because, of course, first thing in the morning, I don't know about the rest of you, but bits of me kind of go, I need a pee. So you go for a pee. You sit back down. I need number 2 now. Oh, for Christ's sake. So you go and have a number 2. You sit back down. Actually, I want another pee now. Oh, for Christ's sake. So, between me and the dog, I would have kebabbed someone by 10 o'clock in the morning. Speaking of pee, I need to do that too. So, I'm going to leave it here. It is not my most finest day. Where's my phone? I need to take a photo. But we've had a good day. We've had a good laugh. Which is, let's face it, the thing that counts the most. But I am hungry. Well, it is 4:30, so, and I didn't have any lunch or breakfast, so, it's not too unreasonable to be hungry. I'm going to scrape these back a bit more so that I've got somewhere to put my laptop tomorrow. I'm going to cover it with the cloths of bias taped. I'm going to undo my bias tape level cloth. And see, part of me had the idea of B, but I couldn't think of what B it was, you know, because I was thinking of binding. No, it's not binding tape. No, it's called bias tape. There it is. It was in there somewhere. Cover all this up. There we go. So that it will be... Oh, look, there's another one. I'll stick you down in the middle then. And put this over the top. Because I like putting this over the top. Right. I shall see you after the working week has begun. And we shall try and do things during the week. We will hypothesize more about the strips, no doubt. But I really do need to do some to see if I can do a whole one. Because if I can really do a whole one and make it look nice, I am wasting my life making squares, right? Because the squares will show, and knowing that I can do better will bug me. So doing a half curtain of squares can be a thing. Or even making the squares kind of like the top part, you know, so as not to, quote, waste them, if you know what I mean. But I do need to test the whole kind of, just noticed there's a bit of cheese somehow on that. I'm sure the dog has found something then that they should have done. But yeah, I do really want to try the strips and join them together, and I have a number of ideas of how to do it, as I've said. So there is a bit of me that kind of needs to do that, but I also don't want to spend that much time doing it. So I would need to do it as a side project, but keep doing this, which then of course detracts from all the other things that I want to keep doing, and. So on that note, having ranted a little bit about how there isn't enough time in the day when working, because that's basically what it boils down to. I'm going to go and find some food. I shall bid you a good day. I hope the rest of your Sunday is good. For those here on the more Europe side of the world, get out, make the most of it, because the sun's about to go away. And for those of you who have got most of your Sunday to go, please have a good day. I hope the weather is good. And I shall try and see you tomorrow. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.